I have mics.
Yep.
Going to call this meeting to order on October 7th, 2025. Mr. Abrams, may we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Bacon,
Present.
Mr. Baoki, Mr. DeCrosta,
Present.
Mr. Fosbrink,
Present.
Mr. Lawrence. He might be having audio issues on his end. I did connect him. Ms. Lewis,
Present.
President Martin,
Present.
and the mayor is absent.
Thank you, Mr. Abrams. This is our public comment period. At this time, only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Forest Hills will be permitted to address council on any issue, whether appearing on today's agenda or not. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them and may speak for a maximum of 10 minutes. Speakers are asked to use the microphone at the speaker stand, clearly state your name and spell it, and state the address for the record. If you have any documents to share with council members, you may present them to the borough manager now. The council president will determine how those materials will be distributed and viewed for the meeting. Speakers are reminded that council using these comment periods as opportunities to gather information and not to respond directly to concerns raised. Information gathered will not be discussed at the meeting, but instead will be referred by the council president to the appropriate committee for review and discussion at the next committee meeting. If it is not a matter for deliberation by a committee that requires more immediate attention, it will be referred to the borough manager, who will respond by phone and or email within 5 business days following this meeting. Mr. Boyle, you signed up first, please.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. Do I have to state that?
Please.
Gary Boyle, 341 Avenue E. I came here today to speak about the litter problem here at Forest Hills. About 20 months ago, I retired, working, and I started going to the gym, down Planet Fitness. And before that, you just go to work and coming home, and you really don't notice, how things might be until you retire and kind of see things more. I would notice the litter, especially on Avenue B. So I have clean litter on Avenue A, B, E, K, L, and on 4 of the meetings from Avenue K past Vincent's Pizza to the end of that last meeting. And also the PRT parking lot, I've cleaned some in there. That gets a little aggravating in there. But I have cleaned it. I'm not here for a pat on the back or anything. I was cleaning yesterday on the one meeting, and 2 cars, waved to me just as nice as could be at thanking me for cleaning up the meetings. And I do it because I want Forest Hills to be nice. I grew up in Wilkinsburg, saw what happened there. It wasn't pretty. And the litter. And then I'm seeing, I have cleaned massive amounts of litter. And over the last year, I've about that. I've cleaned, but I'm shocked how much litter I clean. When I go out to clean, and I've done it, I do it about twice a week. Now in summer, I'm going to the pool a lot, so I'm not as, in routine with it. But I like to go Saturday morning, especially on those mediums, because, traffic zooming past me 70 miles an hour. It's scary. It's out there. And it can be scary, I have to tell you. But I don't want to look like Joe's Boulevard. Everybody knows about John Eagle with trash on both sides of the road. It's everywhere. I wish I could get there, but I don't. I got my hands full with Avenue B. It's so bad down here. I litter every day, and I'll some days when I come home from the gym, I go to the gym just about every day. I'll get out of my car and pick up. There's always something like every day. It just takes an hour. And so what I'm asking is, if we could be more proactive, maybe like, I never see a sign for schools, you know, please don't litter. I would like a sign like, not to say, if you say, oh, $500 fine, that's a space for people to live, I think, you know, there was a guy that had a sign. Greensburg Pike, off the Barclay, had 20 student people there, people proves not litter at that sign. You know, it's a problem, so that, you know, I don't know if you saw that sign, but, I think it's removed now, but anyway. I would like to see a sign and a waste can on the opposite, there is a waste can at the shelter, there is a waste can, and it's taken care of pretty well. But I would like to see another waste can at the sign where it says Forest Hills in that area. I mean, if you came with me and saw the amount of trash that I pick up in a day, like I don't think, sometimes I think, oh, I need some more, a tall kitchen bag, no. And I've had bags, garden bags for, the reason I quit is because the bag is just too full and heavy. You know, it's that big, it's that, and I wanted to say too, I have a lot to say, I won't keep this short. Like this dollar store, I think I would like to see it get on down, like the litter on that parking lot, because it's supposed to litter up dollar store and Alligator got it. And that Domino's store, I crossed the street yesterday, I didn't realize the amount of litter around their dumpster. I started cleaning that area, it was a bit, no way I could get it, I didn't have enough bags. I had one bag, so, and I filled that bag, and then I threw my bag in their full dumpster. That should be empty, but there's trash all along there and into their, and on their parking lot at Domino's, not. You know, I would like you to get on that Domino's and this and over here, but I have to say, I think I came up here a couple days ago and I thought that might look better. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
I can go.
You don't have to stick around, you're welcome to. Is it Mr. Pillar? You're next, please.
Acoustics in this room are terrible. It's a lot of echo. Anyway, my name is Mike Pillar, with 602 Marion. This is concerning the tree at 512 Marion, which is now currently abandoned. I know that your code enforcement officer has sent a certified letter at 512 Marion to ask the homeowner who abandoned the property to clean it up. The sidewalks are covered, the tree is dead in the back of the corner of Van Allen and Windsor. I have pictures here. I also got 30 signatures from voters, taxpayers, homeowners. Going to be directly affected when that tree falls. I don't know if Chief, you remember when the tree fell over Marion Avenue a few years ago? It was a silver maple. I believe it was a silver maple, which is the same tree that's in the backyard of 512 Marion. And it's dead. I do have pictures of that. And it's going to fall. Talking to my neighbors, I found out there was also 2 other abandoned homes. One at 507 Marion Avenue. The reason you can't tell it's abandoned because the borough, one of you guys, called the daughters from the man who owned the home who had been deceased to cut the grass. Grass is kept nice. That's why you never know 507 Marion is abandoned. There's another abandoned home on Linton. I think it's 519. Going down Windsor on the right side. That end signs, you have a couple of few lots in one, but they're right before the, you know, apartment home, it's right there. That's abandoned. I never knew that. I never knew it was abandoned, but it's been abandoned for a while. As far as this tree goes, I'd like to present my petition to the council, that I approach.
Please.
And pictures.
Did you write those addresses?
512 Marion has an open window on the Windsor side. Now that's just one completely destroyed house. I don't know what was in the window, maybe it was an air conditioner in there. Wondered if it can pull it out as an open window. And that's the same. That's here's the pictures. I wonder if can you initial these and date them, and can I get a copy of this? Do you have a
Mr.
copy machine?
Andrews? Yep,
Okay, yeah, you can initial it somewhere on both pages and just date it,
take
and I'll
care.
get a copy of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And take care of it after the meeting, or I can email it or mail it to
I
you.
can't hear you.
I can either mail it to you, email it to you, or
Actually,
after the
you can
meeting.
mail office, and I'll pick up some-
Okay.
Can that be okay? Should be, that's. Let's see. And, another, this is for the chief, was answering. When you put speed bumps in, why don't they put speed bump by the stop sign? I don't, why did they put it in the middle of the road? They speed through the speed bump, over the speed bump, then they go through the stop sign. There's no area. I mean, every once in a while, you do have an officer up there. Whether it makes you sound like, I don't know. But, if you put the speed bump in front of the stop sign, at least they'll slow up enough. So maybe want to stop. They don't want to distort the law. Is that legal? Is there state regulations on where to speed bump? I wrote a question. I said it all. Okay, let's see. The borough had brought up free service cooperative. The borough had,
Bartlett?
Bartlett tree service cooperative. There's a paper cap. It's called private calorie off the blanket. Are you guys familiar with that?
Mhm.
It's, I'm sure you were off the Glen Alley between Windsor and Barkley. There's a paper paddle down there, and it has a purpose borough there, and it has trees on it. Growing over the girls' garage to the corner. And walls property, growing over the road street. And he said there's a possibility along the rail on Glen Alley, it's a possibility of eliminating the trees there. Well, they're just weeds, they're just big weeds. And if they, because it's on the easement, you have so many feet each side and the other, I think, the property. It's on the easement, so hopefully that gets done too. I have a very much time.
Thank you.
May I be dismissed?
No, you have to stay. Mr. Tomasic.
Bill Tomasic on 40 Tango Drive. So I'm here, can we key out those pictures? There's 4 of them. The first one, I don't want is, that's it. With the rail, it's not in place. And I sent 4 pictures in to find those. I don't think that was one of them, but I think that will do.
There's a total of 5 pictures because
Okay, I'm sorry. The one I wanted was to just shows the new steps. With the, that's it. Okay, so as you can see, the routing is missing. And that's code violation. I've notified the manager. This goes back over a full year and it still is not been resolved. All I can tell you is the manager has done everything possible over the last year and a half to not enforce the codes. That's the latest. Okay. And it's caused hostility and because of his lack. So we're in a situation where that should be resolved. From what I understand, it is resolved. They need, and you can check with your attorney, and not with the borough engineer as to the legality. Or code violation.
I thought this is already.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, I understand it's being dealt with, okay, but over a year. Moving on to the next one, I'd like to show the sidewalk if possible, please. That one, that's the shut off. That's the sidewalk that's missing, so the gas company come up there. And about 10 feet of sidewalk has been removed. Now, as you know, I've been on council for around 16 years, and you run into problems with these companies, water, gas. They forget, this doesn't get on the list. I don't want to be going into the winter without that sidewalk being replaced. I believe you have the legal authority to call the company up and tell them to get that thing replaced because it's a violation. If it's not fixed within 30 days, if I'm correct. And then I think you also have the legal option of doing the work and then billing them if they don't comply with your domain. I think. Okay, so moving on to the next one with the yellow flags.
I'm sorry, which one, the blue or the yellow?
Yellow flag. Shoot, there's a blue one and there's a yellow. Okay, that one right there.
That's the shut off box for the, for my gas line. I had that replaced several years ago, when it was still on council, probably close to, 6 or 7. Now, it's hard to see, but if you look at the box, it's on an angle, it's not vertical. Reason for that is because that tree, which is a borough tree, and it's in right away, all right, has pushed it that way. And when they went to repair it, they had to do everything they could to get that box back in there. All right, so that they could shut the gas on and off. Now, this becomes tricky because I'm responsible for the line from the box to my house. However, as you can see, the tree trees in the front going towards my house. Okay, if something should happen in that area, I don't think it's my responsibility. But that's a legal question I have to counsel. So if something should happen, and when you talk to some of these guys, I have happened to run into the plumber who's working on the gas line. Who I talked to, teacher Carlton, and he gave me some of these crazy stories. Roots of tree trunks affect these lines, and I'm looking at this and going, well, that's not my tree, it's not my property, but if I was responsible for the line going back from that box, who is responsible? Okay, the brilliant minds of whomever did this put that tree right between the shovels. Okay, so you can see how close it is, because when the tree was put in, it's this big. No, it's this big. If you would please go to the blue flag. Okay, now that's on the other side of the tree. And that's the shadow off. You don't get the same perspective because it's hard to get the picture to line up, because it's an arc going in front of the house. But that's the same situation with the water. Okay, so again, I'm responsible for that box to my house. You can see this, the trunk, the roots come out that area. And that's a little bit of the area where they actually did replacing. That
30 seconds.
so anyway, if I can get a legal response from you as what your position is on this stuff, because I have to get insurance. I have insurance, I think on the water. I dropped it when I had the new line put in because they say it'll last 50 to 60 years. So I need a response, and I need cooperation, and the council, and I need communication. So I keep coming, sending emails, sending pictures over you. And it's to the back. And as you well know, you're all aware, we're not being on the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, did you want to approach council?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't know if you were here.
Sure, start.
Thank you. Sure, well, you're very welcome. Okay, well, that ends, public comment, and we'll move on to the committees. Mr. Lawrence, operations and policy? Do we have him?
I don't know.
Yeah. Are you on?
I am.
I.
All right.
Oh, there he is.
Okay.
A little slow to respond there on the. All right, I believe there's only one thing on the operations and policies agenda tonight, so you don't have to listen to me very long. So I'll ask your help. We had a person who applied to be on the EAC because the Office and Policies meeting was postponed until next week. If we review it in Office and Policies, it will have to go to next month's agenda and wait till November. So I was going to ask the Sufferance Council to consider this person's application tonight for review at the business meeting or approval at the business meeting. The EAC has already endorsed the person's application. So it's really up to the council tonight whether you want to wait for the whole process, review it in the agenda meeting in November, or take care of it tonight. I'll just ask everyone to jump in.
Mr. Bacon,
Mr. Lawrence, this is the person who we read through their, or at least we received established form was extremely qualified, had all sorts of relevant experience, I think a master's degree or PhD or something, correct?
we have a copy
If
of
I
it.
may, I think that's a different person. Mr. Cooper, we were going to consider, but Tree and Shrub had asked for additional time because he's been coming to the meetings and he was going to be slated for this month as a Tree and Shrub.
Okay, we're saying EAC.
This is EAC.
Oh.
That's where we.
Okay, I apologize. That's a typo on my part. It is not the EAC one. I just saw a recommendation for appointment. It's a Tree and Shrub. I apologize to everyone.
So it's this email.
Yes, the person is correct.
Well, this looks good to me, this email.
Yeah, let's put it.
I mean,
I believe I attended a training trial meeting recently where, Mr. Cooper was negotiating, was extremely engaged and passionate about it, and I recommend that experience as well.
anyone else? Looks like everybody's in favor of it, Mr. Lawrence.
All right, if that's fine, then we'll just put it on for approval at the business meeting. Unless anyone has anything else, that's all I have for the agenda meeting tonight on ops and policies.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Moving on to the Finance Committee, Ms. Lewis.
Sorry. Trying to fix my microphone. So we only have one thing, which is a recommendation to approve the HC policy. I think that policy was sent to Ops and Policy for their review, which would sort of expedite certain bill paying that we do on a regular basis, reduce the number of checks we use, etc.
Oh, yeah.
Are there no ACH processes in place at all?
There are none right now. Everything we do is either via the credit card or via manual checks.
Okay, thank you. This is just why this is an important matter for council to consider.
This fixes that.
Doesn't look like anybody's not in favor of this.
Now I say go for it.
I think we all agree this is good.
Okay, great. That's the only other thing for our regular report.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Bacon, moving on to borough property.
Thank you, President Martin. I'm gonna ask for the numbers to go with this, from either our manager, engineer, as we bring this up. So we have two items for borough property. One of them is the saga of the bridge in the main park. So as a quick review, it was initially put out to bid, sort of misinterpreted by anyone who actually approached the bid, so we pitched that and we did, it did not really happen as successful. Founding on that either, so this is now the direct procurement phase. And we have a number on that, it is higher than what we sort of hoped for, but within the reasonable range, and quite simply, we need to get this done. So we can use the rest of that grant money remaining on other park, playgrounds and such. Do we have the 52,500? Okay, so it would be for 52,500. We saved some money on this by Public Works shoring up some of the foundation and such. So it's maybe kind of half again of what we're sort of hoping for. I think that's an appropriate estimate, but we need to just get it done at this point. So folks are in favor for moving that forward.
Yes.
Further comments or concerns?
What was the original budget on this? I know it's been many iterations, but.
The original budget for the line item, I think, was actually all in all was closer to the 50 to 60 mark, but the original estimate for just the bridge, because we did a lot of the labor ourselves, was in the $25,000 range. So we had what we had and what we applied for gave us about 50 to 60,000 to remove and replace the bridge. We were hoping to do it for that 25,000, and then, use the rest for additional equipment. So we're kind of back to the
So we're back
original
up.
grant.
Okay. All right, and then the next item is another, so disappointing, first reading, related one, unfortunately. This is to do the pool renovation of the pool building. And we're recommending to reject the construction bid that came back from Caliber Contracting and to rebid the project. Do we want to do a general number on what came back?
You came in on a base bid of around 900,000. You didn't have, any actually building contractors bid this. So you had, contractors who just not their typical work. So all the numbers were significantly higher. So when we rebid, we're going to try to do some of the folks that's bid before, if you're interested in it, so. It takes sometimes on these a couple times.
I just have a question, just is this project only, for the pool building, or is it other things as well?
It's renovation work inside.
So it's all inside, it's all interior.
Yeah, timing may be everything here, rebidding and getting towards winter. Somebody should be more interested in doing the winter work.
And there's still hope for this being done before next season. We're not up against the edge on that yet. And hopefully we'll have a better return on this.
Yeah, I'll express in the last meeting that there was the timeline seemed to still be done.
We have Mr. Foster in the department.
I just had a quick question. This was grant funded, right? So where do we expect these bids to come in?
650,000.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And wasn't the office part of this too? It wasn't just the lockers?
Right, it's the whole, like the whole downstairs pool building especially will be drastically improved. For both the staff and the summer having actual non-utility room sort of office space. In order
Oh, yeah,
to
that office.
and then there'll be a family restroom, there'll be extreme improvements to, the changing rooms, to showers, to toilet facilities, everything. All right, that concludes Borough property, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. Mr. DeCrosta, anything for planning and zoning?
No, I have no borough business to present tonight, but I just want to let everyone know that we were in the Wall Street Journal this morning on the national edition about the Adams Factory site. And different people from the borough were featured in there, and so if you haven't seen it, go do a search on Adams Factory, Wall Street Journal today, you'll see it. I think it'll help move that property along, and hopefully we'll see. That's it.
Well, I wanted to thank you, Mr. DeCrosta, for meeting with the reporter.
Sure.
I had a nice picture of you in there too. So anyone wants Joe's autograph, they're still free, so.
President Martin, I have one question.
Mhm.
Are you still looking for feedback, Joe? For the developer had asked us basically if any of us had feedback.
Yeah,
That was like 2
sure,
months ago.
yeah,
I never sent you anything, so.
sure, he's still looking into it.
Okay.
He's still waiting on, it's gonna take a few more months, he's still waiting on the environmental reports.
Okay.
So he's in a holding pattern right now, but still interested after he saw it in person and willing to help us preserve the Adams.
Good, thank you.
That's my report, President.
Thank you, Mr. DeCrosta. Mr. Fosgren, Public Works, please.
Thank you, President Martin. We have two things. Recommendation to approve the bid from Cronin Enterprises for contract 25-SW1, the pollution reduction project in Forest Hills Park. Mr. Brett, do you have anything to add about that?
The value was $128,950, and with the pollution reduction we're getting, that cost is in line with what we expected.
Mr. Bacon?
To clarify, this is sort of the, this is where I lost the technical thing, but it's basically building more of a wall, sort of to retain water as it drains.
Yes.
The part of the one.
Yeah, this is so the water is coming out of your system within the park This was an existing pond that we're modifying, to reduce sediment coming out of the water. This is your first project towards meeting your requirement and funds. So it'd be very good to get one under our belt there.
Yes. Any other questions? Everyone okay with moving forward?
Yes.
And then the second item is the approval of the articles of agreement between the Borough of Forest Hills and Compass Minerals America for the purchase of road salt during 2025-2026 season.
I thought we bought a whole bunch of salt this year. Do we have to buy additional salt?
If the manager can answer, because this has been explained to me a few times too. So-
Yeah, didn't we go over this before?
Unfortunately, we do need to buy salt. The 24-25 winter was harsher than had been anticipated. It did deplete our stocks pretty well. So what we've made a habit of doing prior to my arrival, and we're continuing, is we split our salt ordering between the state, the CoStar's payment, and this year with Compass Minerals as the SHACOG. And we figure out when, before these are due, what we estimate we're going to need. And then we are given variance between, depending on which contract, 60 or 80% on the low end of what we say, and up to 100 to 140% of what we say on the high end. So we've already got the state contract done. They require that to be submitted in March. We just received the one for SHACOG. So this splits, one comes faster, one's a little bit cheaper. It splits us up so that we can make sure we always have salt. And again, the total amount we agree, we put in at 100%, but for this one, we can go as low as 80% without any penalties or any need to purchase additional. There's always a minimum that you do need to buy no matter what we do.
Does this exceed the minimum?
We purchase based on what we believe we're going to need for the year. And then knowing that we can cut back down to that 60% for the state and 80%. So.
And if I could clarify for a second, this isn't defining any purchase. This is just the agreement that we are going to purchase between 80% and 100% of what we expect that we'll need with them. This isn't, I believe, putting in the actual order yet, or is it?
Correct. There is no order. We've stated what we believe we're going to need, and then for this contract we can purchase between 80 and 140% or 120% anytime between now and I believe May of 2026 to fulfill our contract requirements.
So it'll cross budget years.
Yes, as the winter season unfortunately always does. It's the biggest pain.
And this is something that Mike was explaining to me too, that we do these at separate times and getting them from separate vendors so that we always make sure we have access to salt. And we do this sort of stock up in October to be ready. And then he does another order in like February, depending on what happens with the winter.
The only reason why I'm asking questions, I don't recall that we've ever talked about this, so perhaps it's something new, and that's great. I think Ms. Lewis had her hand up.
Ms. Lewis?
I just wanna say that it's the fact that Forest Hills splits its salt order, between Stars and SHACOG is smart. A few years, this has always been the way. It may just have never gotten in front of council,
It probably
but this
did.
has been the way that SHACOG has always worked. However, Forest Hills wasn't one of the impacted communities, but a number of years ago, there was a hiccup with the SHACOG ordering system. Subsequently, I think it was Cargill at that time was not obligated to provide salt to municipalities caught in the hiccup. I had 5 of them in my cog. Amanda had an additional 5. SHACOG only had 1. So they were literally without salt. We worked it out through the county, but this is actually, in my opinion, a sort of prudent way to go about ordering salt to make sure, because you can't ever predict, and to make sure that we're not without.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Any other comments? I would say this is one of the reasons we have excellent winter service from our public works department is because they always have access to the materials. That's all we have. Thank you, Madam President. Oh, I should ask Mr. Brett, do you have anything under public works that you need to address that we're not doing?
Just an update on the road program. You'll see there's, one street down by the public works on the Allen's that has remained closed. When to know that street, the first 3 or 4 paths completely broke up. They were probably 100 years old and, they were severely cracked to begin with. So we have base repair and contract to take care, of those, situations. So when they come back over the next week, you'll see those slabs come out and, asphalt will be in place, and then they'll get, everything that is currently scratched and binded, should be paid by the end of next week. A prep crew is coming in to do the curbs on, the trees, and then they'll, get it paved. So I would say roughly 2 weeks, as long as the weather is somewhat, decent for us over the next 2 weeks. And then, we're already getting quantities pulled together, to make sure what we have left for the cater. So before the public works meeting, we should have a really good estimate. And then for your meeting next month about the bill for all the work that's been completed. And in November, then we'll begin to do the concrete work on the cater. So it's coming together, kind of as we anticipated. So, but they are moving through pretty good rate.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Bacon?
I have a question, this, I saw some Carl Avenue on the road tonight, and I think that will, those in a couple of days from now. It looks like it's been paved with asphalt, but there's still like a gap between where the asphalt is and the top of manhole covers and things like that. Is that stuff that's gonna get another layer or it's somehow just a?
Yeah, it's a 2-step process on all the roads. The ones that got milled into concrete, they scratched them first with a thin layer. And, then they all come back and they'll do the wear course all at one time. Some of them had binder place, which is thicker asphalt. And the same deal will come back and they'll put the, wearing course on that. And they'll do some adjustments in some of the structures between those 2 coats.
That concludes our public works report, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Mr. Lawrence, are you still with us for public safety? Doesn't look like there's anything, but still. Okay, Mr. DeFrost, would you take that?
Yeah, we have nothing to report. But, I don't know if the engineer has any.
Nothing additional.
Thank you, Mr. Brett. Thank you, Mr. DeCrosta. Okay, moving on then. Any new business? I see the 2026 budget discussions already here, but did anyone else have something else before that? Okay. Let's start the budget discussion.
Super, I will kick it off and actually just, by way of kicking it off, sort of pass it to Seth. I asked Seth because I thought it was helpful, the finance committee has spent a good bit of time working through the major components of the budget, both on the revenue and expense side. And I thought it would be helpful if Seth could kind of memorialize some of the things that we've been talking about in a document with some high level feedback and share that with council. Seth, do you wanna take a minute and kind of generally walk through that document that you prepared and sent to everybody?
And
I found it very helpful, by the way, to go through everything.
yeah. Does anyone not have copies of it?
Does
Yeah.
does everybody
Yeah,
have?
this is the one that I.
Do you want to look?
I think that's.
Do you want one, Joe? A copy of the budget? Okay. Anybody this way?
I think we're good.
Good.
Good. I'll hold it.
So within this handout, it is a summary because I know how much everyone loves looking at Excel tables on paper or on a TV screen. So this is going to be pretty much all narrative. To be clear, as I develop this budget for presentation, its goals are to maintain the current services that we have without looking at any cuts, replacing only the necessary equipment for the capital end. And it does at this point create a very small planned revenue surplus of just under $64,000 that would be added to the capital improvement plan, potential or needed funds for the roads, or to make sure the fund balance stays up to date. The history and some of this also came up with the presentation that Debbie Grass did, is I actually pulled all the numbers without our discretionary grants or the one-time transfers from reserves, and just looked at what our revenues are based on contractual revenues, taxes, the other pieces that we can be fairly confident we're going to get, versus the associated expenses. So if the grant wasn't there, the grant expense was also removed to level the playing field. And we've been, as I stated last year, looks like we've been finishing, we'll be finishing in a deficit again this year. 2024, we're waiting for the final audit, but 2024 and 2025 look like they will have a deficit when you pull out the use of the outside funds. Therefore, my proposed budget includes a millage of 10.06, which is a 1.31 mil increase, based on the average that has been calculated by the county as far as the assessed value, not the purchase value. That would be a $136 increase per year for households, with the average assessment for the county, for the municipality, being 104,000. The rest, any questions so far as where we're standing? Yes.
I have a lot of questions, but did you want to finish first and then?
Yep. Yeah,
Let's just do that. You don't have much left, right?
No, I think everyone has reviewed it, so I'm just gonna make sure that the context is correct. I think I can't remember if there are notes in there, but obviously the highlighted areas, are areas where we, as the borough, have the ability to affect things, because we can set the fee, we can set the rate, whatever it might be. Things that are in red are potential concerns or trade-offs that will need to be potentially looked at. The revenues, property taxes are really the only thing that we have, or the biggest thing we have where we can make a change. The rest of the Act 511 and other real estate-based taxes market is flattening out. Delinquency, Jordan's done quite well, which is great for 1 year, but that means that there's less for them to collect in the future, because our collection rates are also very high. So there's not a whole lot of new delinquencies for them to go after. Licensing permits, if you look on our budget, we actually did quite well. We've had like a lot of street openings due to water line replacements. None of that funding goes to the borough. So that's a pass through, or almost none of it, depending on what it is, 80 or 100% goes to BIU. And that's how they get paid, in lieu of hourly fees.
Where
And
does
that's
the other 20 go?
for the 20%
Just
on a
like
couple of them,
curiosity.
it goes into the general fund.
Because I thought you said the borough doesn't get anything out of this if there's
For-
20% left.
For,
They do get-
for,
Thanks.
for a couple of the items, for street openings and a number of the
Wasn't
others, we get zero. Yeah. Cable franchise is decreasing. The count of devices is an opportunity for us. It's not going to be huge, probably a couple of thousand. We haven't collected that in about 6 years. It kind of died off with COVID. Interest, they finally cut rates at the Fed, and we are seeing it. So we will have lower yields on our interest, which has also bolstered us for the past year. And then the trusts and the solar credits, the SRECs, right now they are selling quite low, and it looks like it's only going to be about $2,000 in credit. That's in addition to the savings that we actually get from not using the electricity. But the sale piece of it is really quite low. State grants are, for the pieces that we normally get, are pretty flat. And a lot of the other grants that we're getting are going to, or applying for, are going towards sewer, so that would not show up in the general fund. Intergovernmental, we have proposed increased fees to Chalfont for the services. We're waiting to hear back. And we're going to continue to sell fuel. We're just under market rate, but at 35 cents a gallon, we're making a better premium than I think fuel stations do. Previously, at the about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I sent out the memo on fee schedule proposed changes. The only thing that is still not firm as far as my recommendation and Mr. Reamer's recommendation is the fee for the rental of the ball fields, whether they be the soccer or the baseball. We know they need to increase significantly, but we haven't landed on a recommended number yet to present to council. We're also going to see a one-time transfer of $35,000 from the fire fund that still owes us from 2023 from the purchase, down payment purchase of fire truck. That's it for the revenues piece of it. There are small transfers for capital items that are appropriate under the building fund or otherwise. The expenses, the biggest issue right now is healthcare. When Allison and I went to the open enrollment, we found out a 13% increase was in our face, and that's about a $60,000 increase in our health insurance coverage. We did meet with staff and have come up with a voluntary option for them to choose a different network, same coverage, same everything else, and this is voluntary, so there's no CBA issues. That if everyone were to sign up, it would create a $23,000 savings. They met today. It seems like there's a number of staff, a significant number of staff that are interested and willing to do that, because obviously they would also see savings from the employee buy-in piece of it. The rest of the expenses, tried to keep them pretty level. There is obviously there is increases for administrative and janitorial staff that fall in line with the other union increases. Software costs, the SaaS, are increasing slightly because in the detail I have included for some extra programming that may be needed. Just jumping down, public safety, UCC, and code. As we discussed in November 2024, right now there is a proposed $4,000 increase for WEMS. And there is, we have the additional funding proposed to continue the deer culling at this point. Public Works, I do have a request in. I know that it's a request for an additional Public Works person, and the cost for year one is $73,000, including benefits. There's the possibility, and after this, I'm going to take an aside into asset essentials, if I may, that we may have, if we're not able to do this, we may have to look at splitting the frequency that certain tasks are done so that we can get everything done, or we're going to be seeking additional goals on prioritization. Looking at other ways to save some funds. We've always budgeted for 3 summer staff. We could easily probably cut that to 2. And reducing some other overtime. Pool. I do have in there a $20,000 slush as a way of putting aside that we can put into the pool donations or into a separate account. We do need to think about the long-term repairs on the pool shell, the inside concrete on the pool. It's got a 10 to 15-year lifespan, and we are not there yet, but we're approaching it. So we need to start putting some funding away so that we don't get caught. Tennis court, this is another one where the cracking has been extremely significant in the courts. And at this point, they need to be rebuilt. If they're going to continue to be in use. Shade tree overall is pretty flat. There is the funds that the garden club traditionally request. They have requested funds again this year, and the arborist at this point I put in for an additional $10,000 over this year, which is still less than 2024, just to make sure that we can stay up on the progress we've made. Community donations, the library has requested an additional almost 2,500. Historically, we've kept that fairly level. The library is requesting to come and do a short presentation as a usual budget request. The advisory committees, this was something that we came up with last year that created a fund a line item that where all the advisory committees could come in, request funds to use. It used to be just for, I believe, the EAC, but council last year decided that take those funds and any of the advisory committees can use it as long as they come in with plans as to how they're going to use it, and then we don't go over the amount. Celebrations, this is another one that obviously can be reduced, but you can see the list of the events that covers. Debt, principal, and interest, this continues to be this is going to be our large item until 2034. 2032, Mr. Bacon, you actually have this number, I think, memorized.
I think it's 2034. And we are treated with significant contribution every year.
Yeah, I actually disappointed that I do not have that number, the year memorized yet. The rest of it is pretty flat. I just want to quickly hit on the transfers. There is a recommendation of the $30,000 being added to the capital fund. As I said, there were approximately 64,000, and throwing 32,000 into the supplementing the paving because we are going to be running shy with just the 1 mil from the recommended 2023 plan. The two things that are included in the budget are a new police vehicle and a Ventrac machine for DPW, which is replacing 2 other pieces of dead and dying equipment. So overall, we are decreasing our machinery by 1 piece, and we're going to be able to get much higher value use out of it for the cost. The concern is that none of this really addresses the capital requests that have come in from a couple of council members in the departments. That's been shared online with everyone. It's sorted by year, but those come out to 378,000, of which the police car and the Ventrac are included. So actually that's on top of that. So there's a lot of council, again, is going to have to make some decisions if you want to fund any of those in the 2026 budget and how we're going to fund those. And I'm going to finish with a piece of good news. The funds that from the Siemens solar project and everything were finally submitted to the IRS. We are anticipating a net return of 267,000. Being the IRS as they are and the current speed of government and the US Postal Service, I have no idea when that money will come. It could come by December, it could come in 2026. I don't anticipate it'll come later than 2026. Those are one-time funds that it's council's discretion as to where they would like to place them, how they would like to use them. I've thrown a couple of thoughts out there. So that is the summary of that. There's also some slides
Could we
that I did
discuss
put up.
this first?
Yeah, I was
It's
just saying
starting
those
to get to
slides.
be a lot, if you
Yep.
don't mind.
Mhm.
I wanted to just thank everybody for preparing this. It's always a lot of work every year for the budget, so thank you. Allison and the manager and the committee. I wanted to start with the maintain current services without cuts. I think cuts is a hard word. I think we can do a little massaging here, where they're not actually cuts, but right now we're doing A+ work specifically for public works. They're cutting grass every week. Could that just go to every other week? Would that hurt anything? I think there's significant things we could do. Because later on, we're being asked to fund a public work employee. So I think there are ways additionally to cut down on overtime costs. Thank you, you have one in there, which I had suggested for this year about weekends, picking up trash. Why can't we just put another trash barrel out? Because I see residents come there with trash bags from their car, dump it in our trash can and leave. They're not there enjoying the park. And we're just providing a service because they don't want to have garbage that smells in their house. So I think there's some things we can do specifically if we start looking at cutting our costs. Now, the smaller, it doesn't sound like much. When I looked at the capital improvements plan, the reason why I asked about the office being included in that grant for the pool is the pool office is listed in there, but it's part of the grant. So why would it be in there again?
The
So
state
we don't
specific,
forget?
the state specifically excluded furnishings from that grant.
So this is furniture.
Correct.
Okay. Well, we can think about that. Now, the needed funds for the roads. Okay, I know Mr. Brett gave us the 50-year plan, but I think we should just stick to our 1 mil now and not worry about it. We don't have money for all of this stuff. You're talking about a new pool liner, tennis, the tennis court has been like that for years. And there's no way we're gonna be able to repair all this stuff. Other municipalities and boroughs say no. Why can't we once in a while? Let's just think about that. So, and then the adequate fund balance. So are we planning on doing more than the usual 7% into the reserves?
At this point, not necessarily. But with the deficit that I am projecting, we will be actually digging back into the reserves and taking close to, if not below, the $500,000, where it's been sitting between $500,000 and $650,000.
Well, then let's look at some other ways then that we can cut some costs. Now, when I mentioned about that, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, the grants, okay. The fees for this fee schedule, I'll go over separately. Now, the 4,036 that's for WEMS, I believe we always budgeted that. Wasn't there 8,000 plus this? There were two figures for 12,000, so we're not raising anything.
Correct, but as of this year, we have in the budget for 12, we've committed to 8 with the possibility of the 4. That 4 remains because it was never fully determined. So yeah, that 4,000, since we haven't paid the additional yet, I have in there as optional for council to decide.
Well, I just wanted to remind everyone that we've asked WEMS several times. Mr. Lawrence is our representative, and we've asked for them to come up with a figure for Forest Hills. And here we are at the end of the year, we still don't have it, so we're hoping that they'll come up with something. Now, the increased cost for code, all right, the proposed deer culling budget, it's actually a lower cost we paid this year, correct, than was budgeted. So we
Correct.
feel that it'll be lower for next year.
Uh,
It did come in lower, because we
right,
didn't get.
because we didn't get as many
Mhm.
deer. When I did speak with the USDA, they suggested an overall budget of around 50,000, 48,000. So of
That's
that,
what they initially, I think.
yeah, because they're hoping that,
46 or something.
yeah, it was around 45, 46. They're expecting that it's going to go up a little bit if they get all 50 deer. The original numbers that I had in there were lower, so the 25,000
Mhm.
brings it up to that 50 mark.
Okay. So I'm moving on to Public Works. I would be against an additional Public Works employee. This comes up every year. I think we can make do with what we have. Like, I don't know when Public Works does any weeding, but certainly the lawn mowing could be every other week, I think. Now, I know there's summer vacations, and if people are on vacation, they're on vacation. I mean, there's people on paternity leave and maternity leave, you know. These are short times, so I don't think we should be hiring extra summer staff to cover that. It's just a short time. That's my opinion. Okay, yes, okay, yeah, and you have in here eliminating the weekend trash. Are there any other overtime activities that Public Works could think about? Now, remember, I spoke with Mr. Corbel in the beginning, and overtime costs with Public Works are negotiable. So it isn't like we're, asking something that isn't expected or can be talked about. Okay, the pool. Okay, Arborist community. Yeah, that's gonna be flat. Well, additionally with Public Works, there was confusion from the previous foreman where they would do work on people's properties. And they're still doing it, even though they've been told not to, because I guess as a favor to certain people, our staff was cleaning up their yards. I think that's for code enforcement to go after people that aren't here, but have property that they're not taking care of, rather than having our crew go in and do this. Additionally, there was chemicals sprayed there. That isn't our property, so I don't know what we're doing with that. So with the advisory committees, that's what we did last year, but truthfully, what committees actually request money? It's mostly the EAC and a CAT, correct?
Correct.
So like recreation doesn't, tree and shrub has their own. Am I forgetting any?
Recreation.
They don't ask for any, yeah. Because I know the EAC does Earth Day and they do a lot of things, but I would suggest if we're looking to eliminate things, cap it at 3,000 and do 1,500 to each. Because unless we know how much they spend in a year, I mean, last year, I know there were suggestions of going to Philadelphia for an overnight conference and paying per diem, hotel bills, the cost of the conference. We suggested something locally, rather than going out of Pittsburgh. And I believe these were, all reviewed by council before you approve them.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Okay, yeah, I don't think we should do an additional bit on the road paving. And so I was happy for the good news at the end of this. So it looks like of the 378 that's unfunded, if we did this 267 to it, it's only 111,000. Well, you have to laugh at something, right? This whole thing has me ready to say, honest to God, and we haven't even gotten to any of the other stuff. So I'm done with this for right now, but whenever everybody else is done, we can move on to something else, but
Well, if I could just go back to the very beginning, because I think that the general question that we have as a finance committee is we can go back and make cuts and come back with other things to discuss with council, but at the end of the day, the question is, do we believe that Forest Hills is a place where we should be cutting services, or just saying it costs a little bit more to live here, but we have great services that people love? And I personally am just gonna add my opinion in here about, I know raising taxes is unpopular, but we have also not done it for 10 years.
we raised it last year.
Okay, but before that, it was 10 years. So I just think that we need to look at the systemic deficit that seems to keep happening and not be relying so much on the windfall amounts that we're getting, whether those are grants or this extra money from the solar panel fund and things like that, that we're sort of, we keep getting ourselves in the hole, and I think that's what we're trying to look at holistically and avoid the systemic deficit. So that's just my opinion, and I think answering the first question is, what does everybody think about is Forest Hills? Should we look more at cutting services? Is that gonna make residents happy? Or we know tax increases aren't gonna make them happy, but it's sort of a one or the other kind of thing, acknowledging that we still can make cuts. Barb, Mr. Bacon has to.
Go ahead first.
I think at a very high level, I really, really appreciate the first steps, just going through this, talking about things that, you know, we services we want to cut. Or alter services we want to alter.
Too harsh.
Expectations we want to change, because there's, both the expense side and the revenue side. I don't want to say sole concern, but my primary concern is that we finally have those matched this year. Because we have been in the structural deficit, relying on reserves and things for a long time. And however we get there, I just want us to have that as a goal in mind, because that is what is sustainable. And whether it is altering the service expectations, I mean, it inevitably involves raising the millage rate, because that's what we have, and there is no option to not raise that this year without drastically more than alternate services. But I just want to see us have a truly sustainable, no more deficit plan going forward. And I think a healthy way to kind of keep that in mind, that, okay, we have at the very end of this, again, the one-time income. We need to consider that one-time income from federal tax credits for solar, which I do not feel comfortable absolutely expecting to show up. Just in the current federal government, all of those words involved. So if we treat that as really a one-time sort of bonus income towards, you know, any of those capital sort of bolstering our capital requests or bolstering our reserves, things going forward, I think we're in a very healthy position that's fiscally conservative and sustainable and safe, and provides a good starting point for keeping the borough finances and reserves healthy for, you know, generations to come. And when we finally get to that, my other hope is that we continue to be responsible, so that when we do finally get to 2034, which sounds so horrendously far from now for this, right? But if we are responsible until then, without starting a big new bond or something, because we planned ahead for things like pool, major pool maintenance and things like that, we're gonna be in fantastic shape then. And that is the sort of thing where you can look forward to either some brand new borough improvement, or, you know, drop That's just for the first time in the ages for anybody. It would take that much dedication to make that happen. So I just really hope we can have a truly sustainable, reliable, and however we all, negotiate among ourselves on opinions and altered services to reduce expenses and tax increases to raise revenues, that we at least aim to have that balance this year. And I think if we can agree on that, then all the other pieces fall into place as far as having good productive discussion and goals for everything else.
I think the other thing that I wanted,
Clark.
oh, go ahead, yep, sorry. I thought you were pointing.
I didn't
to
want-
talk.
No, I hit this stupid thing, I probably, got you confused there. So I agree totally, but you see, what we do in Forest Hills, let's not think of these as just, like again, cuts. Why can't we do something temporary? Maybe for a year, maybe for 2. Let's see what happens. You know, the playground on Avenue L had, playground equipment that wasn't used for 2 years. It had this orange, barrier around it. And in 2 years' time, one person asked, when is this gonna get fixed? So we have to stop thinking of, we have to have all this stuff all the time. It's a nice dream, but we can't sustain that. The other thing is, if we're moving forward, and this, I agree with everybody here. It was a shame the taxes weren't raised before, but if the idea is to continue to raise taxes this much for 8 years to catch us up, you're gonna tax people out of here. Because not everybody that comes here uses all our amenities. And while we're talking about that, our fee schedule, so now we have the Woodland Hills soccer team and the Woodland Hills Baseball League, not team. Now that's people coming here, and I love baseball, I love soccer, but there's people there who aren't from Forest Hills. There is no charge for the soccer team. If you look in the fee schedule in the baseball league, $100. A family of 4 pays more than that to see one Pirate game. And yet that field needs $50,000 to $100,000 worth of work with the water in it. So my suggestion on things like that would be, let's start looking around at new ideas. So for instance, the cost to maintain that field, just to have people go and cut the grass, is certainly more than $100 that we're pulling in, and they sell concessions. So they could certainly either pay more, or Lions Park has something. I don't mean to be mean, but we can't keep doing this. We have to look at alternative things. Why don't we turn that into Mayor Porco's dream of having public gardens? There's already a fence up. There's already water over there. We could have this. That's all people wanted. And before it was behind the Westinghouse Lodge, we'd need a fence. There's no water source. That could be the Frank Porco Community Garden. And the baseball league can go to Lions Park or go up to Churchill. Wilkins and Churchill are all part of Woodland Hills. Why is Forest Hills the only one giving things away and expecting our residents to continue to pay with raised taxes? I just bring this up because we are looking out for our residents. And I just wouldn't like people to have to move, because I know some that are, they just, they go off and they do different things. And they're gonna go live somewhere else cheaper. That's everybody's right, but let's just think about it, okay?
I would also say, with all due respect, though, that, we battle the fact that the school district taxes are so high.
There's
You know what I
nothing
mean?
we can do about that.
Right, when we talk about people potentially moving from Forest Hills, it's not that they're looking at the borough's portion of their taxes, they're looking at the whole thing and deciding to move. So that's not necessarily something we can control. And I'm sorry, I kind of hijacked things again. I tend to do that. I'm sorry. Well, I'm gonna say that about additional revenue. One of the things that I was not aware of, because I'm still new, is in the seminar that we had, the presentation, it was mentioned about the Act 511 flat rate business taxes. And we are not currently collecting any business taxes on businesses in the borough. We're just collecting the real estate taxes from the people that own the buildings. So something like Aldi is not necessarily paying any business taxes to be enforced. So there's a way we could look at things to add more revenue, but who knows how much more revenue that could possibly be?
Right.
Or if we want to undertake that ordinance change, because I believe it would require an ordinance change.
I mean, I don't think that's an unreasonable thought, but I mean, it's a flat rate, these businesses are paying what, $250 a year? That's not gonna pull us out of any kind of hole at the moment, you know? It's something we could, apply for.
I'm just saying, if we're looking for ways to offset the way it appears to taxpayer constituents, you know what I mean?
I mean,
We
if
can
it
say,
breaks it
look,
down a few tenths of a mil
Right.
short.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's fine. It's okay.
I know, it's kind of.
We have to let Ann talk,
Well,
okay?
it's kind of like trying to say that we're trying to raise $10 million by having spaghetti dinners. You know what I mean? It's just like, you'll work forever to try and fill that hole that.
Right.
I will shut up now.
I think just one observation, and I think there are kind of two components to this discussion. And I think that Barb has put forward some things that are valid. I don't know a whole lot about what comes and goes in the parks, who uses them, what they pay, etc. And I think some of the things that she said are absolutely very valid. And I think those are things that should be looked at and can be adjusted. And I think it is not okay for borough employees to cut grass for their friends and their family. That's not cool. However, there are many places, Forest Hills may be one of them. I haven't been here long enough to know, where there are abandoned properties where people have left and grass is overgrown. And if you don't take care of it, your good paying neighbors suffer the consequence in the values of their home, which prohibits them from being able to borrow money to improve their home. So there are many places, both affluent and distressed communities that cut grass, you know, for properties where someone has left. So I wanna know which of the two it is, and if it's that needs to stop, and that's a personnel issue. But I do feel like, having spent a good amount of time with my colleagues in the finance committee, with Seth, looking at this budget, those smaller components will not address the deficits that exist. They will not whittle it down enough so that there is no or not a substantial increase. I don't want to live in a municipality with average services. I am a significant wage earner. I'm not wealthy, but I do well enough. We chose Forest Hills because of what it had to offer us. There were places where we could have purchased a home where the home was cheaper, because the services were less, the amenities were less. And I do respect that maybe I'm not every resident in Forest Hills, but I would rather pay an extra $200 or $300 a year to my borough to have 8+ services than not. Because for me, I mean, again, I'm not a retired person, I'm not on a fixed income, I'm a wage earner and I'm a homeowner. And $200 is not, I would happily pay that, and I would pay it for my neighbor. And so,
Sorry.
yeah, so my perspective is thinking about the cost benefit, right? And so we can either continue regularly to ask our residents over time to get in the habit of paying a little bit more every year because the cost of electricity is going up, the cost of wages goes up. I mean, how many people work in a job for a long time and never get a raise? So I think that to me is the larger issue. What the amount is that we raise taxes is something we can continue to talk about. But I think I think it's, for me, it is my opinion that it will harm the borough if we don't address the structural deficit. And that is a word that Seth has used, but it is also, when you look at the revenues, long-term, over time, that pulled from the state websites that Debbie went over and explained, show that our revenues are declining. Our earned income is declining. And so we can't, that means we're bringing in less and we don't have ARPA money anymore. And so we're not gonna be able to meet our obligations. We have another big storm and we need $85,000 to clean up the borough. And we only have 29 in our reserve accounts. Then what then? So that's kind of my perspective. Ian, I think you wanted to say something.
I just think that we, taking that perspective into account, I agree that's a view that a lot of people have, that they here for superior services. I think I'm not misquoting Mayor Parkman when he's trying to say Forest Hills like the general eastern suburbs. And people expect superior services, and we're kind of, I feel, an anchor point for a lot of our surrounding communities by having good services, good fields, things like that. And I think we need to really reach out to all of our citizens and make sure they are aware of this conversation and aware of our priorities. I know we are all doing our best to represent all of their interests, all of those groups. But I don't want anyone being surprised next year if there's drastic changes, well, and any changes. For this, people should understand what's happening in life, so I hope we can just have a plan for really making sure we get the input and we do this involvement.
I would like for people to take a step back and look at the residents that are here. The majority of people here are retired. Last year, they had to pay us what, something like, it wasn't much, 100 more a year. And then the Connie raised money, then we raised the storage tax, then the water company raised. So every year, now it's gonna be, you want this much? We did 0.75 last year. For people that are on Social Security that live here, $100, $200, $300, $400. These are people that aren't using all these amenities. And the bulk of the people here are senior citizens. Some of these things can happen. You're looking at me like.
I'm just curious on where you're headed at.
It's in the comprehensive plan. There is the age of the residents.
Any demographic things we have.
It's in the comprehensive.
I think we're a very broadly diverse community in age and income of all sorts of. I respect that and really looking out for that group, but I think we need to consider that we have young families and people living in here too. We want to have,
They're not the majority though.
I don't think there is a majority.
I think there is.
So I've asked that if we look at that, we have real numbers and consider that and try again, trying with all these broad demographic groups to be informed and involved in the process.
Okay, so the last census we had was 2020, and I believe that's where the numbers are quoted from, unless they're not considered valid. I don't know where else you
As
could
of
get
twenty
anything.
twenty-three, Forest Hills has a median age of 44.7.
Who gave that?
The US Census.
And how many people are over 60?
That's not on this slide, but I'll find it.
Between the ages of 18 and 64 is 61%.
Well, okay, 61. There still is a large percentage of people here who raising taxes at this rate every year. I understand where you're coming from. Last year, we raised it 0.75, nobody balked. Now this year, what is it? 1.3, that's significant. I still think we can work without having to do this maximum. Last year, we were amenable to it. Why is there trouble this year not having this whole document? I hope this isn't getting personal, but you know.
I do not want to this. I'm sorry. I did not mean to have that be a personal concern. And the thing that I really want to highlight from what you were saying is that you're looking out for the most vulnerable financially portion of the community. And I think that should be one of our foremost.
Aren't we all supposed to be doing that?
Yeah, I agree and I appreciate your perspective on that. Thank you, Mr. Sorry.
Seth. That 0.3 represents how much of the increase of the budget?
As far as like 0.31.
Yeah,
You're asking?
0.31. Yeah.
So 1 mil is worth approximately $358,000.
So about a third. 1 million.
Yeah,
So we're talking about another $100,000.
yeah, 110,000.
Okay. Would it be reasonable to find places, because I feel like, to nickel and dime, right, is like $400 an air fight, it's not gonna do anything. Would it be reasonable to see if we could get closer to a mill, even though it doesn't feel significant, by looking at some of these bigger categories, such as, the reserves that we're concerned about? So, I mean, I'm worried about them as well. I think we have to start building them, but do we have to start building them this much right now in sort of these economic crisis times? And so are we a little more prudent in terms of what we're going to be contributing to those funds for this year, maybe for next year, until we get on our feet again? And we don't keep on producing this structural deficit. So just looking at sort of the broader strokes, the bigger ideas of, instead of going into each line and trying to, grab some things here and there, which, could help with a few thousand. One of the big things that stood out to me, and I'm just wondering how this figure was arrived at, was a 21,660 increase from Chalfont Services. That feels like nothing. And I just wonder how that, I don't know what goes into that figure. And I'm just wondering, how we arrive at that, and is it reasonable to ask for more?
That is so the contract, in the past few contracts have averaged about a 3% increase.
Every year.
Right. This one is between the police and then public works is still in the well into the double digits, over 10%. Yep. So it was looking at on the police side, talking to the chief, looking at what they spend, what the wages are with the new contract, and factoring that forward over 3 years, but with increases all the way through. For public works, we looked at the amount that we believe is being spent, the amount of times being spent there. And otherwise the contract itself really was pretty solid. It does not appear that we had, actually not doesn't appear. There was not great data being gathered as far as how much time was being spent.
Right.
And there's also discussions, Mike as the foreman, myself, we believe that for that, I mean, obviously we're receiving money, but we're giving up time. In this case where we're talking, right, the time is to an extent is more important than the money. So we did look at the increases based on combined, the total compensation.
Mhm.
Back to that into the number of hours, we've put it forward. But if
So what do they pay
together,
us total, Rick?
total is about 150, including the equipment fee
150.
No, it isn't.
between the two contracts.
Between the two, yes.
Yeah.
Both of them, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, okay. Okay, and then other things that, I just kind of marked here were, the $20,000 for long-term repairs at the pool, like, could we bring that down a little bit just to address some things that might happen this year and then eventually build that up? This tennis issue, the tennis courts drive me nuts. I feel like if we want to have good services, that's one of the things we should show that we have. And it's gonna cost so much, so do we just go out for a grant for that, or do we just, do we reserve that much funding? In a year like this for the tennis courts, even though I'll go pay them myself, but those kinds of things. And then of course, the capital fund, the highway fund, these bigger chunks that we might be able to adjust a little bit more to get closer to that 0.3. And I know in the grand scheme of things, the 0.3 doesn't feel like a lot, but we're working with a solid mill. We able to tell people, like, we did try to work, with them in mind, pulling it back just slightly. So that's just sort of my 300 or 32,000 feet view of things at the moment. And, as we continue discussions, I think you were.
I have a question, just to kind of learn and understand. Both you and Barb have said something a little bit similar, which is, can we do this? Can we make some of these changes for now? Until, the next year or the year after that, or a couple years from now, when I think you use words similarly to when things are different, or at least that's what I took from what both of you were saying, is that, okay, let's do this one thing now, and then in a few years, when things are different, then we'll look at it again. And so what I'm just asking about is, what is it that will be different next year or the year after that or the year after that? Because in my mind, some of the things at the 30,000 foot level, and maybe even 15, but certainly not down to the level of what we're charging the baseball teams, right? But at that level, I feel like there are significant weaknesses in what we are contributing for the things that as a municipality, we are legally obligated to maintain. We are obligated to maintain our parks, our amenities, our roads, to comply with our sewer and MS4 things. And unfortunately, those things are really expensive. Like $100,000 for a tennis court seems ridiculous, but it's actually really not that much for these kind of capital projects. And so whatever the amount is, we'll have to negotiate that. But if we don't make a significant increase in the millage this year, we're gonna be exactly here having exactly the same conversation next year.
I figured we were.
I don't think anybody's arguing that we have to increase the millage. I mean, I think we're all aware of that. It's like, where can we make some compromises? I don't feel like I was saying like, well, let's hold on and wait till it gets better. I mean.
I'm sorry if I misunderstood, that's what what I gleaned from what you said, and it wasn't a, like, tell me what that is kind of thing. It's just like, maybe there's something that I'm not realizing.
Well, I mean, in my worldview, I hope that things do get better, so that's always the case, but. I'm just thinking if there's places where, like, if I don't have the money to travel to Europe this year because my wife lost her job, then I have to cut it. And so that's why I'm thinking that, or if I lost my job, I should say, not throw her under the bus. She was like that, it's bugging. But in any case, you know, like, we're in a position right now where we can't put all of the savings away. So then, you know, but we have to put some away, I'm not saying that we don't do any of it. So at what point can we get to where we're putting some away without compromising services, without going above a mill, you know, whatever it is from the bigger picture?
You guys maybe don't know this. This recommendation was the strict down version.
Oh, wow, we know that.
Like.
We had the same thing last year.
Where the numbers begin to balance is increasing the millage to 10.25. Because 10.06 does not include any of the wish list. And we've had some pretty passionate discussions as of late over speed humps and whether, and putting more in. And those are around the playgrounds that are used by our younger residents and families with kids. And so all of those things are not a part of 10.6
And they can't be, I mean, they just can't be this year.
We don't have the money.
Yeah.
But here's the question with the credit that we'd be getting back that you're not so confident of that we'll be getting. I mean, why couldn't we put, you know, some of that, at not all of it, like Barb suggested, towards the extras? The requests, use some of that to supplement some of that $100,000 or what have you. And then, you know, choose I'm just trying to shift things around in my head, not having been part of some of the deeper conversation.
Well, we're stuck with grants only going for SOARs because we had prior to LSSE, we're gonna be filing a beautiful LSA grant. I wished it could have went for the tennis courts. We've been trying to get things for the pool. There's no match. It would have been perfect. But since we're not in compliance, what is this one for, Kevin? Pollution reduction?
Yes.
So we're finally on the path. We filed every grant possible, but say we're in compliance. Then we'll have money to do this. We can't do everything at once. It's gonna be too costly.
I would just say, as a person who has not been through this process before, I had no input from anybody else until right now. You know what I mean? Like, this is the first opportunity we've had to kind of discuss these things. And I hope that everybody is open to the idea that we can massage this. For example, yes, we know that we've been asking for several years to increase the public works staff. Is that something that has to be done right now? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, we could talk with Mike. One of the things we might see in the next year is that we could say, like, okay, we're not going to do that public works person right now because we've been able to make process with our asset essentials and work order. And by next year, we'll have a much better view of how much time our guys are spending in Chalfont versus Forest Hills. So I think that there's room to start looking at those things, and we have another month to come back to our next finance committee and investigate the things that everybody has brought up. So I don't know, I just feel like we're getting all passionate about our things, and I love that, but it's not personal. We've got time to come back and massage these things. Nobody's saying you have to make choices today.
Well, when you talk about money, it gets real.
Oh, I understand. Hey, there are days when I feel like I don't have enough money to live in this borough too. I get it.
I just want to say, real quick, I feel like we're all very passionate. I think also maybe this is just fine in having one mature like second round through this. I feel like we're starting on a much like more realistic and like informed viewpoint on this year. And
Oh, I agree.
like I think every idea tonight has been productive. How they'll all get balanced in the end, like I think we're all looking at the same balance point and we'll get there together, and I think it's gonna be a better process and result this year. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Well, I would like to, I don't want to prolong this anymore, but for our next time, could we go over the fee schedule? I know it's not a lot, but let's understand that better. And then the capital budget items, because those are expensive. You had something, Mr. Abrams?
Yes, thank you. I want to highlight a couple of things. I'm not going to go through the slides. You guys have them. They kind of continue to tell the tale that over the years, scratch that. I do things differently than Mr. Morris did. I'm not even totally sure how he went about doing these, and certainly we've changed the structure of the committees. So I do want to encourage and remind everyone that within the structure of the way that the state has designed it and that I've functioned in the past 6 years is I prepare, as the borough manager, I prepare a budget for council with my recommendations. It is then, I then leave it to you, obviously answer questions, and I will rejigger things based on what council wants, but to look at. And so, yes, these are the things that I felt were important or that were needed and that I would love to see passed. If it means, again, I knew it when I said it, that the public works person was probably going to be a non-starter. That saved 73,000 out of the budget right there. But I want to make sure that things don't get lost, because I know in the old process, especially on the capital piece, things got lost, which is why you have the totals out there on the SharePoint. We can print them off. They get pretty big based on the cost for each year. This capital program is $2.4 million of requests at this time over the 5 years.
They're just requests.
Right, but some of them are yeah, and say serious is a good word for it.
Well, I mean.
Yeah, the most of these are not the I want, it would be nice. Let's
go over this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you have things, send them to me or send them, I guess, to Ann as the finance chair. Happy to work them in and see what kind of magic you guys want to work. In the end, these decisions, where we go and where we don't go, are up to you.
Is that Jack?
I think so. Yes, we're fine.
Mr. Lawrence, may I add a comment?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, thanks. Just a couple things to think about. We got a 1.3 mil proposal. Last year, we went about, what was it, 0.75? What was it last year? Yeah. There was a request to do that, double that, and we delayed that. And now we're actually asking for what we even more this year. So I'm a little concerned that we're just going to keep asking for lots more money without addressing how we're doing things. One of the things that concerns me is, yes, we can get deep in the weeds on a fee schedule for $100 or $200, and that's not going to solve our problems, but it's something we should be talking about. And when I heard the discussion of the tennis courts, it came up about 7 years ago, and we looked at the use of the tennis courts, and we had a serious discussion, should we even have them anymore? Woodland Hills allows anyone to use their tennis courts off hours, and that's usually what gets used. And I'm not proposing we don't have tennis courts, but I think in the next year or two, we can't do it in this budget year, but I think we need to look at some of these things, like the tennis courts, some of the things we offer, like giving everyone access to the soccer field. Is that an appropriate use? Is that necessary? Is that what our residents really want anymore? No one plays tennis, they play pickleball. So I think it's important to have a time in the budget process next year to seriously discuss some of the things we offer our residents. Do they really even want them anymore? So before we fix the tennis courts for $100,000, do we really want the tennis courts? I'm only using that as an example.
How many people take the lessons?
Well, again, if we could have maybe 4 tennis courts instead of 8, or however many.
Yeah.
we have.
Yeah, I don't want to address it tonight. It's just, these are the things we should be thinking about, not 2 months before we need to settle the budget. For next year, have kind of what the Carter administration called zero-based budgeting. Look at everything. Do we really want this anymore? And I think we're not doing that. And that's important, not just to save $100, but to think this is what our goal is as a borough. So I think we ought to look at that. The other thing is, I am concerned that that's a very considerable increase in the millage. And I was told last year that if we did something around the 1.31, we would not need to raise taxes this year. And here we go. So I think it's something, the other thing is you might look at in the next coming year, not this year, it's too late, but these business taxes. We are pretty liberal about how we handle taxes with our businesses. We'd have to be delicate in approaching that, but I think it's something we certainly should discuss, not just accept that's the way we've always done it. That's the only thing I can add tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Anybody else?
I have one final thing. I just want to remind council of the memo that I sent out, which did include the fee schedule, that there are a number of recommendations, a couple of which we could easily implement for 2026, at least one of them. And there are others that would be difficult to implement in 26. But again, we need to start talking about so that we could, if we do want to implement them in 27, that residents and owners or other folks have enough notice, or some of them could be implemented as a partial year, but in no way, when I say that it'll be a push for 26, do I think that we can get them in, or I'm trying to get them in for January and they are not in the budget as assumed revenue. These are things for discussion that if council opened up to some of these options, that they could have significant impact without being a direct increase. And just to address the yes, it's 1.3 this year. That's because we literally lost a whole year of $0.75 of almost, that's $300,000 that we're behind on this year that we still need to make up. So that's where it continues to just grow by kicking it down the road.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, then I move to adjourn the meeting by acclamation. Are there any objections? Meeting adjourned. Yes, sign this or no?
No, stop.
Say that.